Well, good morning, CPAC, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As a tribute to Tony Abbott, I've donned my blue tie today. And can you please again give our former Prime Minister a big round of applause? It really is an honour to follow Tony in making some remarks today, but as important as CPAC is, as important as this event is in the calendar, there's something far more important happening next week. And that is my little girl, who's 1 year of age, turns a big 2. And no offence to CPAC, but that reigns supreme in my mind. But it also makes me wonder, when that little girl turns the age that I am now, it will be the year 2074. What sort of country will she live in? What sort of Australia will she and her mates, that generation, live in? Now, I am no fortune teller. I can't tell you the future at all. But there is one thing about which I'm absolutely certain. The Australia that she will live in when she is my age will be largely determined by one key thing. And that thing is that which defines us as a country and that which has the capacity to unite us as a people. Now, that one thing is not from where we've come. It's not our ethnicity. It's not our religion. It's not the food we eat, who we hang out with. It's not our political view. The one thing that defines us as a nation and has the capacity to unite us is a common set of values. A common set of values. There is nothing more important. And to understand what those values are requires us to go back. And Tony Abbott referred to 1788. When Arthur Phillip landed on Botany Bay, that was the starting point of the Australia that we know today, the starting point of modern Australia. And when those ships arrived, it was at the most extraordinary point in the history of Western civilization. It was only 5 years after the American Revolution. It was 1 year before the French Revolution. Two big culminating events as part of what's referred to as the Enlightenment period. And its ideals of science, of progress, of reason. And so, when Enlightenment landed effectively on Australia, there was something different. Because unlike elsewhere in Europe, it landed on a country that had been born with that settlement as a Christian nation, but we lacked all the old baggage of the old world, of tradition and church. That wasn't part of Australia then. And what that meant was Christianity together with Enlightenment could coexist. And both of those found expression through common views on the importance of the individual who has the potential to live a strong, prosperous, moral life, an individual who can find dignity, an individual who can be self-reliant and look after themselves. It is based on that history that as Australia has evolved, and Australia today, proudly so, is a secular nation. We are an expression of our Indigenous past, of our British heritage and its institutions, and multiple waves of migration. And it's the values that has held us together. And the people, let me take that, because the people have come from every part of the planet. And the one thing that holds our people together and has the capacity to unite our people as we move forward, the more we diversify as a nation, the more we have to double down on those values which unite us. I'm talking here about the values of freedom, equality, and a fair go. And there's nothing more important than freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of religion. Freedom to pursue whatever it is you wish to pursue in your life, recognising, of course, that with those rights come commensurate responsibilities. Recognising that with reward, you have to put in the effort. These are the values which come from our past, and if we are to have a clear line of sight from our past all the way through to the future, whether it be 2074 or whenever beyond, that clear line of sight can only be provided by a common set of values. And I believe that is what will unite the Australian people moving forward, so long as we in this room and beyond are prepared to fight for those values. Because we all know it won't just happen. We can't just hope that everything's going to be fine. And that is because right now, I believe our values as Australians are under attack. Most evidently so from a left-wing government. Tony was right, certainly the worst since the Whitlam government. And their values are completely opposed to the values which unite Australians, and I believe the values which unite people in this room. Now, the biggest difference, I believe, when you look at the Albanese government and our history and our values and the history of former Liberal national governments, is Labor believes that instead of the individual, the family and the local community being at the centre of Australian life, they believe big government should be. For Labor and the left, it's all about big government. They believe government should be at the centre. And so they wish to replace the importance of the individual with the importance of government master planning for individuals. They want to replace aspiration with universality. They want to replace the freedom of opportunity with the demand for compliance. They believe in equality, but not equality of opportunity, but rather equality of outcome only. This is big government. This is where we are today. And unless we restore those values about which I've spoken at the centre of our polity, that is the future to where we are going. And it is expensive. Big government begets bigger government. What we've already seen in this term, albeit still early days, is the Albanese government with enormous hubris and arrogance becoming even bigger. Probably the largest milestone of the Albanese government last month was the Economic Roundtable in Canberra. And I tell you, that was 3 days of my life I'll never get back. Locked in a room as part of a socialist summit, no windows. It reaffirms for me who I am and my belief system, and it is completely different from those of the Labor government and their friends. What we saw in that economic roundtable was a government which is running out of money and therefore wants to come after yours. If you let these statistics do the talking, government spending under the Albanese rule has gone from 24% to 27% of GDP. Or, to put differently, this government is spending $160 billion more this year compared to only just over 3 years ago, the last coalition year. $160 billion more. They are planning for over a decade of deficits ahead. Debt will hit $1 trillion this year. $1.2 trillion is what they're forecasting ahead of the next election. Every single minute that goes by, the Australian taxpayers pay $50,000 on interest on government debt. And instead of stopping the spending spree, the motivation of that economic roundtable was to find more money to feed the addiction of spending on behalf of the Albanese government. And we saw that in the proposals. They are coming after more tax. I mean, the only economic policy they have on the table today is to tax unrealised capital gains. So theoretical profits that haven't even been made yet may never be made. That's their plan. That's how desperate they are for money. And they're going to be coming after more because they believe big government knows best. Big government can determine how you live your life, but big government costs money. And therefore, as they ramp up debt on the national credit card to be paid off by future generations, they are also putting their hands in the pockets of the Australian people and taking more of their hard-earned money through tax and also more of their hard-earned money through their savings. That's what the unrealised capital gains tax is all about. And they're doing so in a typical cynical left-wing way. They don't want to have values which unite the Australian people. It's only the right of politics that talk about the importance of unity and service. For Labor, it is all about divide and conquer. The more divided Australia is, they can push Australians apart, step in yet again as big government. Which is why when they talk about tax, they're pitting older Australians against younger Australians. They want to fight. They want to see Australians fight each other. And that's how they're trying to frame this tax debate today. They don't believe in growing the economic pie. They don't have ambition for Australia. They only believe in wealth redistribution. And that only makes us weaker. So the number one thing we need to do about this campaign for unrealised capital gains is oppose it at every step of the way. Every step of the way. And that is what we plan to do. But that was last month. Let's talk about this month. The biggest milestone for the government this month was only a few days ago with the announcement of the government's 2035 emissions reduction target, up to 70%. Now, when you think about what was presented only a few days ago, as Tony laid it out, we actually had in a press conference with the Prime Minister, the Treasurer and the Energy Minister talk about a self-inflicted industrial revolution. If you are going to impose an industrial revolution on your own country, surely you can tell the people how much it will cost. What will be the impact on households, businesses, the industry? But the government is refusing to do that. They are withholding that information. And here is the problem. And I've spoken about this previously at CPAC some years ago when I put forward the case for Australia to adopt nuclear energy. Energy is the economy. Energy security is national security. And as I think of my little girl and her mates as they go to the future, if we allow this government to botch Australia's energy system, then the future Australia they will live in will be poor, will be weak, and will be dependent on foreign powers. for their supply chains. And this is why we need to fight. Because only if we are prepared to have the fight, then we will see Labor doubling down, racing towards this new target of 70% emissions reduction by 2035, without showing the Australian people the economic impact. There is no reason why we as a nation, regardless of our diversity, cannot unite so long as that unity is around a common set of values, values that have proven to be true over generations. And if we do that, then we need to express public policy through those values. Now, at times, it's responding to bad government, and at times, it's presenting your own path forward. But if we are able to unite around those values, then the future for Australia will not be one of being poor but rich, not one of being weak but strong, and not one of being dependent on foreign powers but fiercely independent. And I think what we need to do, especially those of us who are fortunate enough to serve in public office, is to recognise what's at stake here is bigger than just the debate of the day. Policies come, policies go, debates come and go, media cycles up and down. There is something far bigger at stake here, and that is an erosion of the values upon which this country was built, the same values that will determine our future. That is what is at stake. And that, if you like, is the philosophical prism through which we need to rebuild the Liberal Party, not because that's the end game. The end game is to save this country, but the means by which we do that is to rebuild the Liberal Party and, with our colleagues in the National Party, restore strong governance to Australia. Not just because the people today deserve it, but because the next generation deserves it. Indeed, they rely on it. Because we can have a future where we are rich, strong and fiercely independent, but only if we are the custodians of Australian values. Thanks very much for having me here today. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.